Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So as promised, here is the weekly Eyecatchers video, and below this there is the write-ups for all of these horses. If you don't want to watch the video, you can just read the write-ups and see what I said about the horses as well. So we're going to try and do that from now on so that you have both. So the first horse that we want to talk about is a horse called Clune Macon, who finished second at the Curragh on the 17th. What was that? Last Sunday? Let's have a quick look. 17th was last Sunday before last, so not yesterday, but the Sunday before that. Finished second behind Vernet for Joseph O'Brien, and in front of the Aidan O'Brien trained Unless. Now, Aidan O'Brien had a good record of this race, and Unless had performed a decent figure on debut. Now, Vernet improved for going forward and for the experience, so the one that really caught my eye was Clune Macon, who managed to split those. And if you watch her effort, she was slowly away. Then she didn't. Normally, when you're slowly away and then you want to make your effort, you come down the outside of the track at the Curragh and finish really strongly. Now, I can't remember who was riding. Ben Cohen decided to do something slightly different. He switched inside, weaved in and out of horses, went through a gap, and ran all the way to the finish in good style and very nearly caught Vernet. Now, she's finished second. I'm sure Connections won't be too disappointed with that, but I think she would have learned a lot there by both passing horses in the run and then getting through a gap, squeezing through a gap, and finished her race off really well. She's not been an eye catcher that finished so, she finished strongly to a degree and then her effort petered out. Another few yards and she would have won that race, having been sent off 33-1 on debut. In a good race, and I think Clune Macon is well above average, and I think next time if she turned up in something like this she would certainly take all of the beating. So Clune Macon, I think, has run in a good race and finished second on debut. The next horse I want to talk about is Tyrone's Poppy, who's finished third at Catterick. Now, he was the best horse in that race. Not Wanham, not Zicatella. It was Tyrone's Poppy. Go and watch that race. Wanham manages to get a run down the outside, finishes strongly, wins, does go away from Zicatella. Is not going away from Tyrone's Poppy, who did not get a run at all. Tyrone's Poppy was slowly away. Didn't get the clearest of runs down the inside, or didn't get a clear run at all. He was on the back of the horses in front of him for a long way before eventually getting that run, and without the jockey even asking, he's closed down Zicatella. Another yard he would have passed Zicatella, and for some reason all of the analysts and pundits and TV pundits were waxing lyrical about this Wanham, who wasn't even the best horse in the race. Tyrone's Poppy was, and Tyrone's Poppy is definitely one you want to take out of that race and put into your NAGME. Remember, you just click on this button here and it will allow you to add it to your NAGME, and then you can put some notes in, and you'll get an email when it's next to going to run. You'll get an email when it's going to run in a few days. You'll get to be able to see it on these ratings. Let me just show you. Let me just put the words NAGME in here. So when you're going through the races, you'll see this yellow pencil to demonstrate that, that's one of my NAGMEs. You can then click on it and see what you put. Obviously, I just put NAGME at the moment. But yeah, from this race, put Tyrone's Poppy in your NAGME. Really confident that he will, if Tim Easterby doesn't be clever now, and finish 5th and 7th in handicaps, in maiden events, and then goes and absolutely smashed off the boards in a handicap debut. If they're actually going for it next time, Tyrone's Poppy will win if it turns up in something like that. Obviously, I always say that because sometimes you get maiden horses finish third and then they run in a Group 2 or a listed race, and you're like, should have got the experience first, got the win under their belt, and then gone into the better races. But if it turns up, if he turns up in something like this, he will take all of the beating. Similar story of the next race. Now, again, everyone talked about Nostrum. Nobody talked about Arrest. For me, Arrest and Nostrum are very, very closely matched. Nostrum gets the run of the race with Golden Speech at the front. I think Golden Speech went forward, having had the experience. Nostrum sat just behind. Arrest under Frankie Dettori wanted to go forward. As he jumped out, he got squeezed out a little bit, and then wasn't in the right position, and then got squeezed out again and was, 5 or 6 lengths off those two at the front. He then came wide under a very careful ride from Frankie, closed up, ran on strongly, was closing on Golden Speech towards the line, did flatten out a little bit, but I think Frankie wasn't hard on him at all because he knew the race had gone. He was obviously probably pleased that there was another Cheveley Park horse in front and winning the race. But if you want to take a horse from that race, that wasn't the winner because Nostrum's going to end up in a listed group race next time. Arrest hopefully can run in a maiden, and I would expect Arrest to take all of the beating there. The next horse I want to talk about is Ami de Flo, or Ami de Flots. I'm imagining it's Ami de Flo just because of how horse names are said. Finished second, beaten by Boomtime Banker. Now, Boomtime Banker hadn't run for 553 days. You can see he had absolutely no form. He went off 9-2. He was smashed off the boards. I think they only opened him at 14s, which was a little bit of a surprise. But then he still got really well backed, and he won really comfortably. Now he was just a gamble. They do land sometimes. Ami de Flo has probably been a little bit unlucky to bump into him. Has now finished second the last 3 times, although this was her handicap debut. For me, I think Ami de Flo actually wants to step up in trip to 3 mile. Turning for home, I think 7 of Us, Little Gesture, Ultimate Fame all closed up on Ami de Flo, and some of them even went past along with Boomtime Banker before Ami de Flo ran on again for second and held off all the others. If she steps up in trip and doesn't run into a gamble like that, she can certainly win off her current mark, and you'd be disappointed if she doesn't go close next time. Moving on now, this is the race from the week for me. We highlighted the Parent as a horse to put in your NAGME with a similar race in mind. Now, this was a similar race, but I think this was a very, very good race. The 7 furlongs at Newmarket, Highbank, Bold Act, both are group horses. I would suggest that Highbank is a Group 1 horse this year. I would suggest Bold Act might be a Group 1 horse next year. Charlie Appleby knows what he's doing. He knows what type of horses he's got. Watch the race again. The Parent goes forward, makes the running, travels well. Bold Act doesn't. Bold Act comes off the bridle quite early. Highbank travels really, really well. When asked for an effort by, who was riding which? When asked for an effort by Jack Mitchell, picked up really well, just powered clear, and suggested to me that he was very, very good. Bold Act, once he got going, also picked up nicely, ran on strongly, and is clearly well above average as well. The Parent, I think, is still above average. You can see the Parent sort of running in listed races, whilst Bold Act and Highbank end up in group races. The Parent could even be one of these handicap gambles for Royal Ascot next year for, is that Shaker Bade colours? So don't give up on the Parent, but also put Highbank and Bold Act in your eye catchers as horses that you really want to be paying attention to wherever they next turn up, because they're both very, very good. We then look at the 1 o'clock at Newbury, and I'm just trying to see why. In fact, I've just removed that race because that wasn't one I was meant to be talking about. We'll move on to the 7 furlong handicap, Fillies handicap at Newmarket, where there was a clear, there was a horse that should have won this, and she should have won it comfortably. A little bit of a bugbear. I don't know why jockeys don't react during the race when things are playing against you. Who rode Divine Magic? Neil Callan, very good jockey. Not going to dispute that. He's a very good jockey. Why he couldn't tell they were going so slow in this race, I've no idea. Good American at the front, slowed it right down. Dubai Love sat just behind. At the back of the 5 was Divine Magic. And then they got racing with like a furlong to go, or a furlong and a half to go. They got racing. Divine Magic was still in last. She's finished best of all. She should have won it. She was going to get there in another few strides, but I just thought Neil should have been moving forward earlier. You know, get yourself into third, get yourself right behind Dubai Love, the biggest danger, or get yourself right behind Good American, who's still at the front earlier. A similar race, and Divine Magic can certainly bounce back, or is finishing second and then going on to win bouncing back. I don't know. I would suggest she can certainly take all the beating next time. Maybe a bigger field will suit her. But don't give up on Divine Magic if you did back her on Saturday, I think it was. And the final, no, it's not. I then want to talk about two more. Zambak and Venturous. Right, let's talk about Zambak first. Zambak finished 5th. Ignore this one. Completely ignore it. She was beaten by Holly Doyle. Holly Doyle gave Jumbly a fantastic ride, but not only in the finish when running down a schooler, also about 3 furlongs out. Jim Crowley looked left, thought he could get out. Holly said no. Holly kept in Zambak. Jim Crowley couldn't get out. He then got squeezed out by Snooze and You Lose, I think, and ran on quietly for 5th. I really hope Zambak drops back into a handicap, because I think she can win a handicap. You might as well win a handicap before going back into group company and trying to get some black type. Again, this was a little bit frustrating in that, for me, Jim was looking around before they'd even completed the bend at Ascot. Coming around the top bend, he's having a look left, like, when can I get out? Generally, you don't try and force your way out like that. You come round, or you take a slight pull and come round the field. And I think if she'd done that, or if he'd done that on Zambak, he'd have gone much closer. And I actually think he still would have won on Zambak. And the fact that I think she can win a Group 3 is why they've got to go for a handicap next time. Win a handicap of 105, I think she is. And it'd be a feature handicap, it'd be a lot of prize money, then go for black type. A similar frustration in the next. Venturous was given a poor ride, in my opinion. Travelled well at the back, always does, at York, which he won last year. And then for some reason, Ashino decided to come down the near side rather than the far side. The previous race, I know it was only the one race, but there was such a bias in that first race. The jump jockeys, Nunthorpe. The far side performed better than the near side. And yet, having been at the back, Ashino has the choice. Do I go left and go down the far side, or do I go right and come down the near side? And he went right and went down the near side and didn't pick up like I was expecting him to. I think if he'd gone left or stayed straight, similar to what Silver Samurai did, would have gone much, much closer. I don't want to give up on Venturous. I think he's going to drop in the weights now. And there is a race that he could go for in a few weeks' time that'll be very interesting. There is also another 6 furlong back at York in September, I think it is, that if he turns up there and they try and get a bit of compensation, I wouldn't be against Venturous. And the final race I just want to talk about, Sound Angela winning at Newcastle. This was meant to be a handicap. Go and watch that race and see how far Jefferson Smith has won for Roger Varian on Sound Angela. I'm assuming the jockey had been told, go and win it however you like. Don't worry about the, what's going to go up in a handicap. That's going to go up 12, 15 tomorrow. It absolutely walloped them and ran away from it. It didn't look like a handicap at all. It looked like a maiden with Frankel in it. It was that impressive. Sound Angela's not going to be winning Group 1 races next time, but it's certainly not going to be in a Class 4. It's probably going to be in a feature handicap next time. Not one to add to your Nagmi or anything, but probably the most impressive winner of the week. If we're just looking at it from a handicap perspective, the most impressive winner overall for me was Highbank.